From VTV Channel 6 Studios in downtown Vernal, this is Local Point with your host, Chris Piner.
Welcome to Local Point, sponsored by Ashley Regional Medical Center. I'm David Gale, in for Chris Piner today. Now, this time of year, you're going to find a lot of people setting out for parts of Ashley National Forest to camp, ride ATVs, and do that kind of thing, especially on the weekends. But starting in 2010, you might be halted in your tracks with some new proposed regulations of the National Forest having to do with motorized access. So we welcome into the studio today two officials of Ashley National Forest to discuss the travel management plan. We have Kevin Elliott, Supervisor, and Louis Haynes, Public Affairs Officer. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
We don't have a whole lot of time, so let's get right to it. What are the proposed changes to regulations? What can we expect to see possible changes?
Updating our motorized travel plan is about designating a sustainable system of roads and trails where ATV use is appropriate. There are a number of we're seeing a large number of ATV registrations, increase in ATV registrations. Certainly we've had population increases in the basin. So there's kind of a local context. And from a national context, several years ago, former chief of the Forest Service identified 4 threats to National Forest System lands, and one of those was unmanaged recreation. Okay. And the biggest element of that was ATV use. And so in 2005, a national travel rule was put into effect, a new set of regulations governing travel management. And so every national forest in the country was directed to revise or update its travel management plan. We currently have a travel map, a travel plan map, that actually has about close to 1,500 miles of motorized use available. And we've got a draft environmental impact statement available that presently there's 4 action alternatives, and 3 out of those 4 alternatives actually designate more miles of road and trail than the current plan, and then the other alternative that doesn't is actually only about 60 miles less than the current travel plan.
Okay, so what we're talking about is we have specified roads right now that ATVs and other outdoor recreational vehicles legally have access to, and now we're going to have a new plan that's going to change some of those, but you're saying that of the proposed plans, 3 of the 4 actually have more roads available than the ones before. So what exactly is changing? Are we just we designating different roads as ones that they can ride on? Are we taking some away and adding new ones?
We looked at 1,200 different proposals, and so you're right. Some are additions, some are subtractions. There's actually a change, and so while the total number of miles are increasing of what was actually designated in the current plan, one of the things that's causing a lot of anxiety is that on the Vernal District, in previous planning efforts on the forest, there was cross-country travel. And so to help manage for other multiple uses, whether it be non-motorized travel, looking at resource concerns, a few years back, basically, there was a compromise. And so on the Vernal District, there is what we call the crosshatch area. If you look at the current travel plan, there's a crosshatch area where there's about 368 miles of user-created trail. Well, they're not designated routes in the current, and that's one area where there's a lot of anxiety, because while there's 368 miles of user-created trails, we're only, depending on alternative, we're only designating maybe less than a third of those as new routes. Okay. And so while, sure, it's true that we're designating more miles of road and trail than the current, in this crosshatch area, there's going to be a lot of user-created trails that aren't being designated. And that's one area where that's causing a lot of anxiety to motorized users.
Because they figure that, hey, they've been there, we've been using them, why can't we continue to use them? And why is that? Why are we taking away some of those user-created ones? There
are really 3 reasons that we're not designating all of them. If you look at that, if you took a aerial shot of those 368 miles of road, they're everywhere. And again, if we're trying to balance motorized and non-motorized recreation experiences, if we're trying to address resource damage concerns, some of those roads are redundant. If we don't need 3 and 4 roads or user trails going into the same area. And so if we can designate one of those roads or trails into that area, well, our feeling is that that should be sufficient. And so again, the kind of the three drivers is that we're trying to address resource concerns. In some areas, there's resource damage. Well, we've got a responsibility to correct that. Some places, it's not really apparent where they're even going. And then redundancy. Again, if an area has got 3 or 4 roads into it, or user-defined trails, if we can designate simply one of them to provide access into that area, we're thinking that that should be sufficient.
So of those 4 proposed plans, how will you come to the decision of which one to use, or a variation of each?
Right now, in the draft environmental impact statement, alternative B, which actually designates more miles of road and trail, is our preferred alternative. And the reason that I selected alternative B as our preferred is that, in my estimation, it best provides a balance between motorized and non-motorized interests, and it best addresses the 1,200 proposals. We started this effort November of 2007 with a notice of intent to start this planning effort, this travel planning effort. And right off the bat, we received, matter of fact, we even extended the initial comment period in asking folks what their interests were. And we received 1,200 different proposals.
Okay.
And so alternative B, we feel best addresses those 1,200 proposals and best provides a balance.
But you're still taking public comment.
We're taking public comment. Now that we have the draft environmental impact statement, we are now taking public comment on that draft environmental impact statement itself. And what we're looking for, what's going to be most helpful to me in making a final decision, is if folks can help us identify specific areas that they're interested in. And if we've missed the boat, if we've missed the mark, if we've inaccurately described the potential environmental impacts for having that area as a designated route, or if we've simply missed a route or a dispersed camping site where there isn't resource damage and probably ought to continue. If we've missed that, that's something we need to hear about, and so that we can consider whether or not we can include that in the final.
Okay. And how can people give their public input?
In a couple of different ways. They can call our office. They can call and ask to talk to Chris Rutledge, who is our team leader, and so they can provide oral comments to her. They can come down to the office at 355 North Vernal. They can provide written comments. They can go onto our website, which is fs.fed.us/r4/Ashley, and there's a site on there for the travel plan, and there's actually a comment form that they can obtain on the website as well.
Do you have that phone number for the office off the top of your head?
781-5196 is Chris Rutledge's phone number.
Okay, one more time. It was 781-5196. 5196, and the website again?
fs.fed.us/r4/Ashley.
Rewind it if you missed it, okay? All right, we're going to be right back after this quick message from Ashley Regional Medical Center. Stay with us.